You've read 47 reviews for a coffee maker you already knew you wanted. 47. You scrolled past the 5-star ones because those felt too easy. You went looking for the 1-star reviews instead just to see what could go wrong. You read a paragraph from a stranger named Kitchen Mom 82 about how the lid cracked after 8 months, and for a second you actually reconsidered your whole morning routine over a coffee maker. If that sounds a little too familiar, stay with me for the next few minutes. This isn't really about coffee makers, and it isn't really about reviews either. It's about something quieter that's been happening underneath all that scrolling, something worth slowing down and looking at together. I'm Emma, and this is the kind of conversation I'd have with you if we were sitting somewhere late at night, no rush, no agenda. Just two people talking honestly. So let's talk about trust. The kind you hand out so easily to strangers online, and the kind you've maybe stopped giving to yourself. You don't need to have this all figured out to keep listening. None of us do. That's kind of the point. Here's the scene, and I bet you know it well. You're standing in front of your phone, thumb moving, eyes scanning. You're not really reading anymore, you're searching. Searching for the one comment that will finally tell you what to do. Somewhere along the way, before you even opened the app, you already had a feeling. A small, quiet yes or no. But you didn't trust it enough to act on it, so you went looking for someone else's yes or no instead. A stranger's. Someone who's never met you, never seen your kitchen, never once considered your life, and somehow their opinion started to feel more solid than your own. That's where I want to start. Let's talk about the compass first. You know what a compass does? It doesn't tell you where to go, it just tells you which way is which so you can decide for yourself. Most of us are born with something like that inside us. A small internal sense of direction. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. But here's what happens over time. Every time you ignore that inner compass and reach for someone else's opinion instead, it's like you're putting a little bit of tape over the needle. Not breaking it, just dimming it. And after enough tape, enough years, enough scrolling, you look down and you can't read your own compass anymore. So naturally you start reading everyone else's. Have you noticed that about yourself? That the more you check outside opinions, the less familiar your own voice starts to sound? I'll tell you something a little embarrassing. A few years ago, I almost returned a plant. A plant. It was thriving, genuinely, visibly happy, new leaves and everything. But I'd read one review that said this particular plant changes your whole apartment's energy. And mine hadn't magically transformed my life, so I started to wonder if something was wrong with it. I stood there with the return receipt in my hand, ready to send back a perfectly healthy plant because a stranger's words felt more true than what I could literally see with my own eyes. That's the tape on the compass. That's what it looks like in real life, small, silly, and a little humbling. So here's a gentler way to say it to yourself. I'm allowed to trust what I already notice, even before I read what everyone else noticed first. Let that sit for a second, because that one small permission is the thread we're going to keep pulling on. Now here's the next piece, and it builds right on top of that. Think about a sponge for a second. A sponge is useful, it soaks things up, it holds them, it's supposed to. But a sponge that's already full doesn't get more useful by soaking up more water, it just gets heavy. It drips, it stops doing its job. And I think a lot of us have turned into sponges when it comes to other people's opinions. We keep soaking up more input, more reviews, more comments, more well, someone online said, long after we've already got enough to make a decision. We're not actually gathering information anymore at that point. We're avoiding the moment where we'd have to trust ourselves and just choose. I used to do this with restaurants of all things. I'd have 12 tabs open comparing reviews for a $20 dinner, reading through comments about service speed and portion size, long after I already knew which place I wanted to go. I wasn't researching. I was stalling. I was soaked all the way through and I still kept reaching for the water. Can you think of a time you did that? Not with something huge, with something small, a book, a haircut place, a recipe, a show to watch on a Tuesday night. Somewhere you already knew the answer, but you kept collecting more opinions anyway, like the next one might finally give you permission to trust the one you already had. Here's the reframe for that one. I don't need one more opinion. I need to notice the one I already formed. Say that to yourself the next time you catch your thumb reaching for one more search. It's a small sentence, but it interrupts the loop. And that loop, the endless collecting, it doesn't stay small forever. It has a way of creeping into bigger decisions too. That's the part I really want to sit with next. Picture a garden. One garden, one small patch of soil, meant to be tended by one person who knows it well, knows how much sun it gets, how the soil drains, what it needs. Now imagine 6 other people show up, each with their own opinion about what should be planted there, each one digging in their own direction. Nothing in that garden gets a chance to actually grow, because it's constantly being replanted based on the last person who walked by with an opinion. That's what it looks like when we take a genuinely big decision, a job change, a relationship question, whether to move, whether to stay, and we open it up to too many outside voices. Not because those voices are wrong and not because caring what people think is bad. It's not. But somewhere in all that collecting of advice, the person whose garden it actually is, you, can lose track of what you were even trying to grow in the first place. I know someone, and I think about her often, who spent almost a year asking everyone she trusted whether she should leave a job that was quietly wearing her down. Everyone had a different answer. Her sister said stay, it's stable. Her old coworker said go, life's too short. A forum thread she found at 1 a.m. said something else entirely. And the strange thing is, the whole time she already knew, she'd known for months. She just didn't trust that knowing enough to stand on it alone, so she kept handing it to other people to hold for her instead. Here's the reframe, and I want you to really hear this one. Advice can inform the decision, but it doesn't get to make it for me. You can listen to every voice in the room and still walk out having made your own choice. Those two things aren't in conflict. They only feel that way when your own voice has gotten quiet. Which brings me to the last piece of this, the one that actually starts to build something back. Self-trust works a lot like a muscle. And like any muscle, if you stop using it, it doesn't disappear, it just gets weak, untrained, a little shaky the first few times you try to lean on it again. That's normal. That's not proof that it's broken. It's proof that it's been resting. There's a door in my apartment. This is such a small thing, but bear with me, that used to stick. For months, I stopped even trying the key the normal way. I'd jiggle it, force it, sometimes just give up and go around the back. One day a friend visited, tried the key the regular way, and it opened fine. It had been fixed for weeks. I just hadn't tried it because I'd stopped expecting it to work. That's what happens with self-trust after a long stretch of outsourcing it. You stop even trying the key the normal way. You assume it won't work, so you go around the back, you check the reviews, you ask 5 people, you scroll for reassurance, without ever testing whether your own read on the situation was fine all along. So here's this reframe, and it's the quiet center of everything we've talked about. My judgment isn't broken, it's just been resting. I can start testing it again in small, low-stakes ways. Now, before we move forward, I want to do something with you, a small habit I think about often. It's called Say It Kinder, and it's exactly what it sounds like, if the thought in your head is, I can't trust myself, I always second-guess everything and mess it up. Say it kinder instead. I'm still rebuilding trust with myself, and that's allowed to take longer than I'd like. If the thought is, everyone else seems to know what they're doing except me, say it kinder. I only see everyone else's confidence, not their doubt. I'm not actually behind, I just can't see what I can't see. And if the thought is, I needed 47 reviews because my own opinion clearly isn't good enough, say it kinder. I needed 47 reviews because I haven't practiced trusting my own opinion in a while. That's a habit. Habits can change. But before we get there, there's one more piece I want to hand you, because I think it explains why this whole pattern feels so hard to break in the moment. Picture walking through thick fog with a flashlight. Here's the thing about fog. It doesn't get thinner because you add more light sources. If you're standing there with one flashlight and the path ahead feels unclear, grabbing 5 more flashlights from 5 other people doesn't actually clear the fog. It just makes a brighter, more confusing mess of beams pointing in different directions. What actually helps in fog isn't more light everywhere, it's trusting the one light you're holding enough to take the next step, and then the next one after that. You don't need to see the whole road. You just need to trust the few feet in front of you. I think that's what happens when a decision feels foggy, a career move, a hard conversation, even something as small as whether to say yes to plans this weekend. The fog isn't a sign that you need more outside opinions pointed at the problem. It's a sign that you've stopped trusting your own light enough to take one small step and see what happens next. And every time you wait for someone else's flashlight instead of using your own, the fog doesn't actually lift, it just waits there patiently for you to trust yourself enough to walk into it. Here's the reframe for that one. I don't need to see the whole path, I just need to trust the step I can already see. That's it, that's the whole thing. One step trusted is worth more than 100 opinions collected. Say those to yourself the way you'd say them to someone you love, because you are someone you're allowed to love too. And here's the line I want to leave with you, the one thing I hope you remember even if everything else fades by tomorrow. The reviews were never really about the coffee maker. They were about how long it's been since you trusted your own yes. Sit with that for a second. You don't have to do anything with it right now, just let it be true. So here's the one small thing I want you to actually try, nothing big, nothing that requires a plan. The next time you're about to check reviews for something small, a restaurant, a show, a little purchase, pause for 10 seconds first. Just 10, and quietly notice what you already think before you look at what anyone else thinks. You can still check the reviews afterward if you want to. That's not the point. The point is just remembering that you had a thought first and it was yours and it counted. That's it. That's the whole step. Almost too small to count, which is exactly why it works. Let's bring it all together gently before we go. Your inner compass doesn't need someone else's tape removed to work again, it just needs you to look at it once in a while. You don't need one more opinion when you've already got enough, you need to notice the one you formed. Advice can sit at the table, but it doesn't have to hold the pen. Your judgment was never broken, it's just been resting, waiting for you to try the key the normal way again. And you don't need to see the whole foggy road ahead, just the one step you're already standing in